Hello, everyone. I'm Richard Ho, the host of tonight's show, so to speak. But we are very grateful, of course, to Dr. Elizabeth Lee for her fervent support offered to this program. It's just a pity that most of you can't be physically present. But we look forward to meeting one another some other time. We do have a scholar member around physically, in fact, in Patrick Dransfield. You're the only one who is lucky enough to be around, whereas the others are all over the world in different time zones. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I know we have a lot of old pals who were former scholar members, but I don't know why they are still around. They are lurking somewhere in various corners of the world, listening. To my old pals, I say, good night, sleep tight, sweet dreams, because the next 2 hours are going to be rather boring. But to the new members, the scholar members, I say, welcome. Tonight we're going to know a bit about an esoteric book called the Book of Changes. And I don't know how much you know about the Book of Changes. Some people actually make a living teaching the Book of Changes or using the Book of Changes for divination. Let's start with the title of this lecture. The title of this lecture is The Book of Changes, Core Foundation of Chinese Civilization. Now, the latter part of the title was, in fact, added by a colleague on the foundation, and I think it is an ingenious addition, because the book is indeed the core foundation of Chinese civilization, for the simple reason that the main text of the Book of Changes predates Confucianism and Taoism by several hundred years. So the book actually has influenced the life and thinking of the Chinese literati for over 2,000 years. I'm fascinated with the book myself, so the book has influenced me a lot, and that is why I'm here tonight. Now, the book itself. The Book of Changes began as an oracle book, a book solely used for divination purposes. But the book does contain a simple philosophy of life, that is, follow the middle path and therefore avoid extremes. Now, this practical guiding principle for behavior, together with the mystical role it assumes, made it the most treasured book in ancient China. How does this book operate? The Book of Changes uses 64 hexagrams, each with a judgment, and therefore 384 lines, again, each with a judgment, all for divination purposes. In divination, that's what we believe, divine beings could make themselves intelligible through those judgments. Sometimes we translate them as explanations, but mainly if they are judgments of the hexagrams, they are judgments. if they are judgments of the lines, they may sometimes be called explanations. But these judgments are mostly short, cryptic, and at times unclear because of the profuse use of symbolism. So sometimes these judgments are difficult to understand, but fortunately, thousands of years ago, some well-written commentaries came to the rescue. These commentaries are later called the 10 Wings. And these are well-written commentaries. These commentaries, they further explain the judgments and expound the principle of moderation and provide an insight into the main text symbolism. In the Han Dynasty, these commentaries became an integral part of the Book of Changes as we know it today. And these commentaries have come to be known as the 10 Wings. And also, the hexagrams themselves and the lines were also representations of conditions in the world. Therefore, in addition to its use as an oracle, the Book of Changes also serves to further its readers' intuitive understanding of conditions in the world. And that is why it is considered a remarkable book of ancient Chinese wisdom. It's a book offering us good guidance in life, and this book is able to do that even in translation. We know that translation also means distortion. It's nice to be able to read the original text. If not, we have to settle for the second best translation. So let me show you some of the old translated works. This book, I Ching, was translated by James Lake, a missionary from Scotland. We used that a lot. We still use this book. Now, this book was written, of course, a long time ago. And the English was, as a matter of fact, rather hard to understand. But later on, a gentleman by the name of Raymond Van Over sort of revised the contents of the book, and now it is very readable. And this version which we have is the one translated by James Lake and sort of rewritten by Raymond Van Over. Another book which we've been using for decades is this one, the I Ching, or Book of Changes, firstly translated by Richard Ho into German, and then later translated from German into English by Carrie Baines. And this Wilhelm Baines edition is also a very popular edition of translated work of the Book of Changes. We normally call the Book of Changes the Book of Changes, but sometimes the I Ching is translated as the Book of Change, like this one, written by John Blofeld. It's called the Book of Change. In Chinese, it makes no difference because it is the same Chinese word, yi. But in English, if you say change, you more or less focus on the concept, the philosophy, the principle of change. Whereas if you translate I Ching as the book of changes, you more or less are focusing on the instances of change. It doesn't matter either way. Let's look at some of the original texts, like this one, all in Chinese. Now that's a Chinese text. That's a Chinese text. And as you can see, the hexagrams, the 6-line thing we call hexagram. It's in Chinese, worse still, it's in classical Chinese. And this one is well thumbed. I use this one. Are you looking at the PowerPoint yourself, Patrick?
No.
No, come along and
Okay, sure.
let me show you.
Okay.
I don't mind you breathing down my neck. Now, we were talking about translated works. Now we come to the original text, the one we are using right now. They're all in Chinese, but you read Chinese, don't you? A little bit. Now, these are the original texts, and you can also see the hexagrams. Hexagrams, 6-line symbols. You know, Patrick, these hexagrams are made up of 2 trigrams, one on top of the other. So we remember these hexagrams by the combination of trigrams rather than the combination of 6 lines. Hard to remember, but if you look at it as 2 trigrams, it's much easier to remember.
Sure,
Okay.
rather than
6 lines.
Yeah.
Hassan is also doing.
Hassan is on my left. That's Hassan. Meet Hassan and meet Patrick, who is one of our scholar members. What else should I say, Dr. Lee? Anything more about Hassan? Except that both of them are breathing down my neck.
Which you love.
Keeping me warm. Okay. That's the Li hexagram. If you notice, Li is a very important hexagram because the Li trigram is one of the 8 trigrams, the basic trigrams. It's Li, which symbolizes fire.
Yeah.
And these are the other hexagrams. Okay. So I'm afraid you have to keep standing.
Yes, that's right.
Right. And Hassan too. No worries. Thank you for protecting me. Now, it all began with a yang line and a yin line, because the Book of Changes is about opposing principles. It's yin and yang, okay? Yang and yin. Yang is an unbroken line and yin is a broken line. Multiply them. Let's keep multiplying them. There we are. A yang line first, a male line first, and then you put another male line on top of it, here. And here a female line, a yin line, okay? That's the halfway house. It's not, it doesn't really have a name, but it's collectively, it's the 4 emblems. And here you repeat the yin line, add a yang line on top of that one, and the yin line on top of this one. Now you have the 4 emblems. Okay, keep multiplying. Now, 2 yang lines here, and you add other yang line on top of that 2, and the yin line on top of these 2. So let's keep adding. Let's keep adding. Right? You know this set, put a yang line there, a yin line there. Now we have the 8 basic trigrams. This is called Qian, which symbolizes heaven. Anything strong is the strongest hexagram in the Book of Changes. This is Qian. Second tone. It's in the second tone. The romanization on the left is the weight giles. It's the weight giles romanization. Yeah. That on the right is the pinyin romanization. So I'm giving you both. Qian is like this, symbolizes heaven. This is called Dui. Dui. Dui symbolizes a lake or a marsh. Dui. Tui is weight giles. Dui is pinyin. Li, that I mentioned just now, which symbolizes fire. Fire is a strange thing. It's fierce on the outside. It burns, right? But then if you use a Bunsen burner and check, you know that inside it doesn't burn, right? So it's strong outside and weak inside. Therefore, it symbolizes fire. It symbolizes shells or shelled creatures, hard outside, empty inside, and so on. So Li symbolizes fire. It also symbolizes attachment because fire attaches. Without attachment, there's no fire. So this is Li, and in that order, this is Zhen. Zhen symbolizes thunder. Thunder. Not hard to comprehend because you have 2 yin lines on top, a yang line at the bottom. The tendency of a yang line is to move upwards. The tendency of the yin line is to move downwards. So 2 yin lines on top of the yang line. The yang line has to break through the pressure applied to it. Therefore, it gives you the idea of thunder. So it symbolizes, among other things, thunder. It's called Zhen, pronounced in the 4th tone. Li is in the 2nd tone. Dui is in the 4th tone. And here is Xun. Xun, which symbolizes wind. Xun used to be pronounced Sun. The old pronunciation is Sun. Not sun, of course, it's Sun. But now it is pronounced in Mandarin, in Putonghua only, Xun. In Cantonese, the pronunciation has not changed at all. Xun symbolizes the wind, and Kan symbolizes water and a river which flows through earth, because this is earth, you see. This is earth, and if you have something straight, unbroken in the middle, it symbolizes a river flowing through it. This is pronounced Kan. Kan symbolizes river, water, and danger. Most importantly, it symbolizes danger as well. And this is Gen. Gen, pronounced in the 4th tone, symbolizes mountain. When the yang line moves to the top, it becomes stationary because it's already reached the top, okay? The tendency is to move to the top. Once it is at the top, it doesn't need to move upwards. It's stationary and symbolizes a mountain. And lastly, it's Kun. It symbolizes the earth. Kun. Qian and Kun, of course, are the most important trigrams and even hexagrams in the Book of Changes. So these are the 8 basic trigrams. 乾对离震，巽坎艮坤. And you can assign points of the compass to all these 8 trigrams. 乾对离震，巽坎艮坤. And please also note that in the Chinese map, especially the ancient Chinese map, south is on top. South is on top. North is at the bottom. So if you look at Australia from the Chinese angle, Australia is by no means down under. It's at the top. Australia is at top. So Qian is in the north. That's the pre-heaven. Is that the pre-heaven arrangement supposedly determined by Fuxi? But we seldom use this one. What we use is the post-heaven one, which is found in one of the commentaries, which we use in the modern edition of the Book of Changes. Now, this is a real one. We use this in feng shui as well. We use this in geomancy. It's very popular among Chinese literati. I mean, we all know this arrangement. And this is Qian, which symbolizes heaven. Qian is in the northwest. It's in the northwest. Kan is in the north. Li is in the south. And Dui is in the west. Zhen is in the east. And Zhen also symbolizes spring. Everything starts from the east, clockwise. But we normally count from Qian. Qian, Kan, Gen, Zhen. Xun, Li, Kun, Dui. Now this is the compass points. We use this for the compass points. Qian is in the northwest, and Kan is in the north. And this is the arrangement which we are very familiar with. Now I have chosen 4 hexagrams to explain to you. And these 4 hexagrams are in fact the first 4 hexagrams we find in the Book of Changes. Qian, number 1, Kun, number 2, Zhun, number 3, and Meng, number 4. So after studying these 4 hexagrams, we really are able to get to know a bit about the Book of Changes. But let's read the judgment of the hexagrams first, and then we'll read the judgments of the individual lines. We have to use translations. We can't just use the original. I'm using 2 editions. One is the Legge Van Over edition, L/VO, James Legge, Raymond and Van Over edition. The other is the Wilhelm Baines edition, Richard Wilhelm and Carrie Baines. And let's see what it has to say. The Legge's English is rather clumsy, but sometimes it is more faithful. Carrie Baines's translation, of course, is easy to read, but sometimes it's a bit far away from the truth. So you can actually compare 2 translations. Qian, creative. Legge says it's creative, and Bain says it is the creative. This is the original, Qian, Yuan, Heng, Li, Zhen. Qian represents what is great and originating, penetrating, advantageous, correct, and firm. That's the Legge translation. And let's see what Baines says. The creative work's sublime success, furthering through perseverance. Not exactly the same, but you can more or less guess what it's all about. It's the best, it's the most good, it is strong, it's creative, it's got all the good things there because it symbolizes heaven. There are 6 lines. There are 6 lines in the hexagram. 9 in the first place. In the first or lowest line, undivided, we see its subject as the dragon lying hid in the deep. It is not the time for active doing. And Bain says 9 at the beginning means hidden dragon, do not act. Now, the lowest line, almost every line in this hexagram uses a mythical creature as its symbol, the dragon, the Chinese dragon. So each line is looked upon as a dragon. The lowest line is not the best place for the dragon because it is low down. Therefore, if the questioner or the one who asks help from the one who divines for enlightenment on whether to act or not, whether to do something or not, the answer is no, the time is not right. Do not act because it's lying deep and it's got to wait till it has moved upwards. So this is a line which tells us to remain inactive, to really look carefully before acting. This is what the lowest line has to say. Now I'll deal with the second line as well. 9 in the second place, second line, undivided, we see its subject as the dragon appearing in the field. It will be advantageous to meet with a great man. 9 in second place means dragon appearing in the field. It furthers one to see the great man. The second line is much better because it's moved up one step. It is in the middle of the lower trigram. As I mentioned, the Book of Changes advocates moderation. It advocates taking the middle path. So the middle place is normally an auspicious place. So here the dragon has moved up from the deep to the field. It gets recognized. It can start doing what it wants to do, as long as what it's going to do is something good.